Oh, what's up, Florida?
Wake up, man. It's time to talk Robotron.
Oh, seriously? It's like 5 a.m.
Well, it's 9 p.m., man. I got my beer. Grab your coffee.
Not gonna say.
Screw the Transformers. The best toys were at the bottom of the toy box. Grab your nuts and bolts and join us as we discuss the best toys of the 70s, 80s, and 90s. I'm Screwhead.
I'm Avon Fox. Welcome.
Tonight we're talking Robotron. Yeah, 1984. That was right around the time that the Transformers had just gotten released in the United States. GoBots had been out for a little bit already. So everybody was kind of jumping in on that, let's go to Japan and China and buying every mode-changing robot we can find and slap it into our line. And then here comes Buddy L, a company well known for making things like dump trucks out of metal.
Yeah.
And other assorted trucks and cars and metal diecast things. And here they come out of nowhere, and they're going to make some mode-changing robots because why the hell not, right? Like, that makes perfect sense.
And there's money to be made, and let's ride the wave while we can. They also would have seen the video game bust start in the late 70s absolutely boom through, the early 80s and then just die. So they knew it was a short-lived thing.
That's an interesting point, too, because I wonder if they got their name actually from the arcade machine, Robotron.
Ooh. Yeah, that's a good point. And good game.
Yeah, we never thought about that one before. Because I definitely have a Robotron marquee there. So.
You've got the marquee, yeah.
Got the marquee.
Yeah, we found so far that they seem to have come out of model kits from two companies in Japan. There was a company called Crown and a company called Grand. The first wave came from Grand, which were basically the dump truck, the 280Z, the train, and the Honda City Turbo, which is a really popular model in Japan at the time, actual car model. And they were basically just model kits. They were snapped together model kits, no glue needed. And if you look at the Buddy O ones, you can see it's exactly the same. It's just the model kit, cut off the sprues, put together in a factory, and stuck on a card. You can pull them apart. So if you have a damaged one, you can swap bits out nice and easy. There's no glue. You can make your own customs. If you want to make a variant, you can do that, because why not?
It makes it very, very difficult to track down what the actual origins or, which ones were the actually released ones versus which ones were kit bashed versus which ones were just kind of slapped together by some kid named Jerry down the street,
Or Screwhead. If there was if you're a diehard Robotron collector, you absolutely want to see it on card. And we've always stuck to that rule. If you don't see it actually on card, preferably in hand, it probably wasn't real. Or it might not have been real. You can't sign your life away to it.
So the original line came out 1984. They released Wave 1. Had some wonderful names. I mean, this was the original packaging that came out. It was the yellow car with the yellow and the blue car. I think this was the Turbo?
Yeah, Turbotron and Gastron was the blue and yellow. The inverted blue and yellow.
Right. This was Dragtron.
Turbotron and Gastron with the City Turbo one. It was the
Yeah, they were really good with their naming schemes. Buddy L was.
Come on, they just stuck Tron on the end of everything. Like Megatron. Come on, they just stuck a Tron on the end of it. It's like Master of the Universe. If you're a goodie, you had man on the end of it. If you're a baddie.
That's true, and then just whatever your most predominant feature is, that's what you get named after, and that's really what they did with Robotron. I mean, the trash truck was Trashtron and Lowtron. We had Turbotron and Gastron.
We won't talk about
gas.
Tax Fraudtron. Yeah.
Fraudtron. Pimptron. We had Pimptron. It was the Lincoln. It was the pink Lincoln Cadillac. I like how they made two trains and they were like Locotron and Tracktron.
Yeah, but they went a little cool because they took the C out of track, which makes it hip.
Oh well, all the kids love that. All the kids. I know when I first saw Tracktron, that was my initial thought. Was like, oh my god, Tractron is the because it doesn't have a C in it,
There's
and
no
it's
C,
cool.
yeah. It's like Mortal Kombat. The only reason you played it was the grammatic error.
Quality products, Buddy L, since
Mhm.
1910, right there on the back of the label. Now, the best thing about this was the, cheesy, standardized backstory that was put on the back of every single toy from the 1980s had to have a backstory.
Yeah, and clearly something that Buddy L wasn't familiar with. They'd made trucks before, and they had made some dolls and things. Obviously, they made stuff, but they hadn't done a lot of lore-based science fiction, so it really reads like they just plucked something from like a medieval story and then just injected sci-fi into it.
I mean, it makes complete sense. They just asked Todd down in accounting, and he just kind of wrote a sci-fi story, and it's amazing. Do you want to read this story for our audience, our Robotron audience?
I really don't. In all galactic lore, there is no story as tragic or hard-fought as that of the twin princes of the rival moons of the planet Robotron. Exiled by their parents, the Emperor and Empress, each prince was to rule his own moon, with the most successful ruler becoming the new Emperor of Robotron. But one of the princes chose evil as his destruction, evil and destruction as his means to power, and set out to destroy the good prince. Join the interplanetary combat with these evil force and good force robot vehicles that change from robots to motorized vehicles. Collect all 8 Robotrons to complete your own galactic adventures. Whoever wrote that never said it.
Never said it out loud. Not one time. Not one time. What I love about it is are they the cars? Or do they drive the cars? You think they're the cars?
I never considered it. I don't think they did either.
And they're clearly based off of Earth vehicles. And so they're on some distant planet of Robotron and basing their bodies off of Earth trains?
Transformers. Yeah, they did. Yeah, just like that. In a completely new idea.
It completely original. Buddy L was the worst.
I also don't know if... Well, the other thing is, are these the armies of the two princes? And you're just supposed to mash them together and see who's left. The funny thing is they reused that story for their later Chargertron line. Exactly. It's just copy-pasted. And then they just put the name Chargertron in there. That was it. They just changed... They gave the princes names. They changed them to Antagatron and Protagatron.
Oh, right.
And that was it. It's exactly the same story. So are they in the same universe? Maybe they are. Their last names are Tron.
Well, I mean, their last name is Tron. You know, and there was also the dinosaur robots, which were members of Robotron.
Yes.
Maybe. And they weren't Dinobots at all. Like, not. I mean, we'll put the picture like right here. Be right here. But you can tell. They are not Dinobots. They are clearly not Dinobot ripoffs in every way, shape, or form.
Nope.
But, and I mean, the names, of course, you know, Antagatron, you know, is not the antagonist, of course. So in the Robotrons broke down, I think we ended up deciding there was essentially 3 waves of Robotron. The first being the blue and yellows with the car and the dump truck. And then they had the red and blacks were the little Honda minivan, Turbotron, Gastron one. And then they had the tracks. So that was wave 1, which is really the only ones that were ever pictured on the back of the car. It was this initial set here.
Yeah, it's the dump truck. It's the City Turbo, the trains, and the Nissan Fairlady 280Z, which was a very popular car in Japan as well at the time.
Yeah, which is actually an interesting connection because we always said that because you know all these ones popped out so weirdly at the same time that with the way that Hasbro and Tonka had pretty much just gone over and bought anything that was a mode changing robot and then later selected it with converters, which we'll cover in another show. It's almost like did Buddy L go to Japan, find the grand models, purchase them, and then bring them back here and release them as Turbotron? Or is it one of those situations where they just went to one of those Chinese factories and just the Chinese factory sold them a bot or a mode? Of course, we'll never know, but...
No, but probably the latter. And that leads into probably why they appeared for Monogram, because obviously we know that the Harrier jump jet and the NASA space shuttle was released for GoBots under the Monogram brand.
That's true. So, I mean, the origin there... What was weird about the Monogram one, though, is they also had the Dashbot robot Turbo in there, and they had a...
Yeah, they were also from completely different model kit companies in Japan. There's also the Macross 2 kits for Leader 1 and Cycle. We're getting off track, but whether they got them from the same company or they also went to China, as was the case at the time, and was sold the same molds as someone else, it happened.
Yeah, we saw that many times. I mean, many of the toy lines. I mean, we'll get into some of those in later shows, but I mean, it was definitely a common practice at that time.
And because I have it in my hand, that's the Monogram one, and that's the original. Which one? Who did that one? I'm looking at my notes. The Crown model did the grey one.
And those ones, of course, were also later released as Robotron.
Yep.
In Wave 2, which was the black and white one. So there was the black and the white Harrier, there was the black and the white shuttle, the NASA space shuttle. And then they had, I want to say it was the orange, no, it was the red and silver car. So it was the combination red, silver, silver, red. But I think that was also, you know those better than I do.
Red and grey. No, so there was the Nissan, well, so Wave 2 had the Fairlady 300 ZX, which was grey and red, and the dump truck in grey and red, in inverted colours.
Oh, right.
And then, as you said, the Harrier and the shuttle in black and white.
So those ones also, at the Series 3 ended up, which it took us a while to kind of pin down Wave 3, but we found it in the Buddy L, what was it, the Toy Fair Guide from 84
the
or something
retailer's
like that?
catalogue. For people who aren't familiar with them, toy distributors and retailers send out to major retailers a catalogue each year to show what's coming up in the next 12 months or 6 months or for the next festive season. And using those is a good way to go back and find out what order things were released in.
So we were able to match the codes, basically. Essentially, we matched the codes up to the figures. And then, of course, we checked off the ones that were like, later series, the final series, was the blue ones. So the blues were reissued. You saw it was a lot of combinations of like the white Harrier jet with the blue face. There was also a blue Harrier jet with a white face and a blue shuttle with the white rim with the blue face. And then there was also the white shuttle with the black face, the silver face.
They were just reusing parts, basically. They got to the end of Series 3 and went, we've got all this junk. Let's make use of some of these black and white bits.
And they also did the orange and silver re-releases of the truck and the car. So that was Series 3. It was basically a complete reuse. But what's really interesting, at least to giant nerds like me and Avon, is that it is quite common at that time, especially for Series 3. Would just, it was like quality control was pretty good for Wave 1. It was like the red figure had the red wheels and it seemed right, and then of course Wave 2, it was decent, but by Wave 3 it was like, the monkeys were running the shop at that point.
Yeah, and look, points to them, because I guess with modern quality control you would just throw those away, whereas we're seeing in Wave 3 some of the red wheel rims mismatched with the orange bodies, because I guess they had a heap of red, Wave 2 wheel rims left over, and they used them. They used them up. Yeah. And obviously they want to make money, maximise their profit, but I think these days, if Hasbro did something like that, people would complain that, things weren't colour coordinated properly and why they're giving us junk. Whereas at least back then they did sort of use up everything they made. The Harrier.
The Harrier jet. Was it Harrier-tron or was it Jet-tron?
They don't have a name. So everything after Season 1 didn't have a name.
We worked out one time, and this took me and Avon a lot longer than I'm comfortable saying, but we worked out all the different color combinations that might exist for Robotron, and the big elusive one was the black shuttle with the blue face.
Yeah.
Black shuttle Blueface. Now, this one, we paid way too much for this particular robot.
And most of them, to be fair.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where there are. So, I mean, the Wave 1 is. I mean, you can find the Wave 1 with the exception of the blue vehicles. The blue was extremely fragile, especially the older it gets, and it just cracks and they just fall apart. So, the blue bots are pretty much, if you try to rebuild them, they're going to fall apart. But the rest of the Wave 1, I mean, they were pretty common. We used to see them all the time, right? Wave 2 ones, the Harrier, the White Harriers, the black, the white and black, and the red ones. The red ones are definitely harder to come across than the Harrier and the Shuttle, but still, those took us years to find all the different color combinations.
But and with good and in good condition. You can obviously mix and match rims and so on if you've got some. I mean, with the same colors. You can obviously pull them apart, as we discussed. But one of the things we really struggled to find was loose examples with good stickers. Because they don't have foil stickers, they have really cheap paper stickers. They're just always trashed. So if you're collecting them and you want to find a nice mint displayable set, that sucks. Again, you can't swap them from one model to another. You might be able to take an arm off and swap it, but you can't remove the actual sticker. They just come apart. My personal trials, obviously I'm photographing them for my website. They're fine when you see them this big, but when they're blown up 600% on a 4K monitor, they look terrible. You've got to get good ones.
Yeah, I think we shot maybe 50 pictures of each angle of each robot. It was, and then of course, when we found out, we went on a whole tirade when I think it was this spot right here. Yeah, this spot right here. And I don't know if you can see it on camera, but the blue wheel there with the white and black face.
Yeah.
That sent us down a whole other thing because it was like, oh, God, do we have to photo every wheel combination as well? Yeah.
I think I just cheated and ended up saying, there are all sorts of colors. Basically, there's an example of each one. Every color combination theoretically could be. If you find it on a card, then it's just. But I think it would come down to me saying, for my own personal sanity, it wasn't a planned color scheme. It was what was left in the bin at the end of the production run, and they just mashed them together.
Yeah, that is very apparent from some of it because again, the Wave 1, Wave 2 product control was pretty decent, but by Wave 3, it was gone out the window, and it was just let's slap all this crap together and get it out the door. And I honestly am not sure if they switched from red ink or red dye to orange dye, or the red dye just got too faded. They were just
don't do that.
They were just
me.
like,
no,
we're not buying
talked
more
about
dye.
This boundaries. We talked about this. I will find you.
And of course, you could have a toy line, and even a crappy toy line. And I don't want to call Robotrons crappy because I think these little bots are extremely charming for their own simplicity and their little wheels that back up. And
one of the nice things about them, and I think makes them unique it does. The thing that makes them unique out of all of the 80s toys, and possibly even modern blister-carded toys, is that they are model kits. So they're made of model kit plastic. They have that sound, but the casting on them and the detail is incredibly fine. And once again, you won't see it on camera. But compared to GoBots and Transformers and everything else, the material they cast them out of and the molds they used allowed the detail to be extremely crisp and fine, to the point where some of it's borderline sharp. So I think they do have a charming little niche in the fact that they are unique in that. They're really good quality little models for what they are.
Clearly, a lot of the robots were based off of probably Machine Robo, because the shuttle looks eerily like Spacey. The dump truck looks eerily like Dumper. The Tractron looks a little bit like Loco from the GoBot. So clearly they were. I'm not going to say they're knockoffs or ripoffs, but they were clearly inspired by GoBots.
I think you can say that. I think you can say that. I would say the original model kits were likely inspired by the Machine Robo release. And that would line up, because if you think about when Machine Robo's Spacey Space Shuttle Robo came out in 82, start of 83, and 83. And these came out in 84. So there would have been plenty of time for a company in Japan to decide to make a model kit of it based on what was suddenly a highly popular toy by Bandai, and that then gets sold to, Buddy L. I mean, that's Spacey. It's exactly. The mode transformation, everything is the same. It's just slightly different mode. Ooh.
I mean, but all of them have that same kind of twist and shift, or flip the lid, or they're all almost the exact same transformation model. And the pullback action is, I mean, as a kid in the 80s,
it's great.
It was great.
Yep.
And they always filled that niche, like I always called them the unknown denizens of Cybertron. I think I heard that somewhere, but that's pretty much what they were. You didn't know their name. You didn't know who they were, but they were good cannon fodder when, Psycho came to town and was looking to mess up.
Didn't even have a name. The unnamed shuttle.
Spacetron.
Didn't bother. Spacetron. Sorry, Spacetron.
NASAtron.
Spacetron.
So they fell into that amazing little niche. And kids who are from the 80s will remember this from so many different toys that you'd buy at Kmart or Pick and Save, or I don't know where the hell you bought it in Australia. I assume the Outback or from Kangaroos or something.
Yeah, under a tree. Yeah, I haggled with the koala while I was riding my goanna. Jesus. Anyway, but no, it's like Motobot and everything else. It's that one, those toys that your grandma picked up at the service station on the way coming to see you because they forgot to get you something, or thought they should walk in with something, and they were the best.
Have you ever actually seen a Robotron or anything over in Australia?
Absolutely not. They weren't sold outside the US as far as I know. Probably US and Canada. No, we found Canadian cards, didn't we?
I don't think we found Canadian. I mean, I'm sure if it was sold in the US, it was sold in Canada. But I haven't seen any Canadian cards.
Yeah, but I haven't seen any Canadian cards. And I don't know what Buddy L's distribution, how far it extended into Canada. I'm sure it did. But it may have been under, what were they called? Grand Toys in Canada.
Grand
Either way,
yeah.
That's something for another day. Let's pretend that didn't happen.
Another day and more research. And that often happened. I mean, in the U.S. in the time, if a toy line wasn't doing very well, a lot of times it would be bought up by a Canadian wholesaler or a Canadian marketer and sold as, either under a different name or even in the same package but with a different label. I mean, you can look at the WWE figures or the WWF figures from that time and some of those other ones. But so I mean, we took a long time trying to find the Robotrons. I mean, it took us an exceptionally long time. Mostly because people don't know what they were, so you can never really find them. You had to find them buried in a GoBots lot or a Transformers lot or something like that. But I mean, as far as value is concerned, Wave 1, you can get one on card, $20-$25 at this point. I mean, they're not that expensive. Wave 2, if you're lucky. Again, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, at the time, before me and Avon became best buddies, most of the time, it was just us bidding against each other.
Yep.
On these kind of things.
We actually met fighting each other on eBay. We were arch villains without realizing it.
Yeah, it was. That's how our relationship established. Is it was over some select converter flexibots. Is the origin of this podcast. So that's our origin story.
Yeah. And
but once we joined forces,
we made things worse for everyone. No.
We made things worse financially for everybody, but we saved a lot of money.
We did
after that point.
We stopped outbidding each other. Yeah. The
but I mean,
continues.
Wave 3. If you see the Wave 3s out there, expect to pay $40 for them. At the top of the market. But all in all, I mean, the Wave 3 is definitely the rarest.
It's that real argument about rarity versus value. I mean, you look at something like some of the rare G1 Transformers or some of the rare Japanese-only Apollo Robo, for example, from Robo Machine, Machine Robo, and you're paying $1,000 for some of this stuff, whereas that one shuttle you held up before, you're likely to never see another one. I mean, they might have made 3 because it was a factory error, or they just. I've seen more Apollo Robo listed in the last 12 months than I've seen any of those.
Yes, this is true. This This robot, I mean, literally for 2 years, it was like a leprechaun that we assumed existed because of the way they did all of their different casting and all that stuff.
And we were searching.
Yeah, and we were searching hard for that bot. So the fact that, I mean, that's in the years since, I've never seen another one. So I mean, that might be.
And before that, we hadn't seen it organically when we were just collecting information about them to make a list of what was actually released before we even knew we needed to look for it.
That's right. I mean, the only way we really figured this out was we were just kind of looking at the color combinations and going, well, blue and white, man, all right. Then there's also this other blue, this white and blue one, so that must be something.
But then there's a white one with the black faceplate, and then there's the blue face. And so that's when we realized it really was just a mix and match. None of those combinations are seen in the retailer catalog either.
So again, they just ran out of supplies. It was just building. But Buddy L is one of those great toy lines too. That again, anybody back to the Pick and Save and Kmart story that I started there before we went down the Australian outback, middle of nowhere, Crocodile Dundee stuff. Which by the way, I just offended half of Australia by saying that, and I accept it. But these
no
toy
one
lines
says
were
shrimp on the Barbie. We don't call them shrimp. God damn it! No one calls them shrimp. It's prawns.
I always maintain for Avon. I always maintain this figure in close proximity to me, just for the sheer crikiness of it all.
Crikey! They also don't talk like that.
No.
Some people do. Yes, we're cracking the dingo's dong a shell. Check out that oven. No, we don't. Really? I'm sure some people do, but we don't.
Oh, I'm from Florida, so I mean, there's definitely parts of Florida where people start talking like this all the time. You know, I'm gonna go down to the swamp, gonna catch me an alligator. And again, I just offended half of Florida by doing that as well. So, doing good at getting canceled tonight, I suppose. Anyway,
no, we're good.
So, back to the story. Buddy L plays well with.
Oh, yeah.
It was a whole brand of toys from the 80s that were always labeled with that plays well with Transformers, GoBots. And Buddy L was no exception. They played well with GoBots, Transformers, all those other things.
They were the same size. Well, the cars were the same size as your Matchbox TM cars. You know, so anything that fit in with could be in disguise with your Hot Wheels and Matchbox cars. That's a win. It's Transformers with their weird different sizing, different scaling. Didn't fit in with anything else. If you look at GoBots as well, they're all that same, whatever size scale it is, I can't remember. They're all that same scale car, you know, so they did play well with anything. If you had a car carrier semi-trailer, you could use them with that.
Buddy L later on in the toy lines, they came out with this thing, which we'll put it on the screen so you can see it a little bit better. But the Robot Rider Power Wheels. Well, I love the fact that it plays well with Transformers because I just want to see Megatron sitting in that vehicle.
Just straddled. Yeah, just straddled over the top.
Just riding it like a horse or something.
Yeah.
And what's funny about that is it's not a Robotron vehicle. Nowhere on it does it say Robotron. No. It does have Robotron robots on it. Yeah. The orange ones particularly, so Wave 2.
3.
But
3.
Wave 3, yeah. So half of the Robotrons, though, don't even fit in the Power Wheeler.
No.
Like the shuttle.
But they can fly, so what are they power wheeling for?
And they did release that one in another line. It's almost the same truck, but they definitely, like, Buddy L did not take a lot of time in redesigning this robot car to drive around. I mean, it's battery powered. It's got all the fun stuff that Buddy L put into that, but we've definitely found other examples. Yeah,
there's the ATV they did, which is kind of a spacey thing. It looks like a cross between something from Playmobil and, I guess, G.I. Joe, like a bastard child of that. And it looks like they've borrowed the same wheelbase, just removed the middle wheels and put that gold fascia bit on just to make it look more spacey and Robotron. And then there's the green one.
The green one. Which we're not going to talk about tonight because the green one is amazing. We'll come back to that. That is another foray into the mode-changing robots that Buddy L was famous for. Were those the Bug Bots? Bugtron? But we'll go into those at a better time because I mean you can't enjoy the joy of bug bots without actually
No,
going into the depths
that's a
of
separate
bug
thing.
bots.
But I think it's worth mentioning that they were in the same, obviously, Buddy L's planned takeover of the robots what change into stuff universe.
The mode changing robots, which again, me and Avon, we realize that we're the Odyssey outliers in this market because we have an extreme affection for all of the most unloved mode changing robots from the 1980s. If it's out there and you probably didn't want it as a kid, me and Avon want it now.
Yeah, if you cut it up and used it to make stuff out of, yeah.
If you cried on Christmas when you opened it, chances are we're hunting it right now.
We want it, yeah.
So, I mean, that pretty much covers the basis on Robotron. I mean, Buddy L, they only did it for a year. I mean, the toy lines, the way they released them back then, it probably was out for a year, maybe a year and a half at best.
It would have came, even though their copyrighted run was between really the end of 83 through 84. They probably would have been on shelves till 86. I mean, they would have been out for Christmas at the end of 84, done a big push. I mean, I know it says 84 on the toy, but they would have released something like Wave 3 for Christmas 84 to make those bucks. And I mean, one of the things that people don't often realize is that the date stamped on the toy isn't the release date. It's often confusing. The date stamp is the patent date. So it's why you find R2-D2 figures, modern figures, if you look underneath them, it says they're stamped 2002, for example, because they made the body back in 2002 and they've just reused it 1,000 times over. And so your 2002 R2 might have been released 2023, which does make this difficult. But they would have been on shelves up until 86, probably.
Oh, kind of. I mean, they did their foray into action figures. They took a swing at it like just about everybody else in the 1980s, and then within 2-3 years, Robotron faded back into the netherworlds of the planet Robotron.
The rival moons of the planet Robotron. There's 3 main lines of Lockoff. There's the DL robot vehicles, which I'm sure you can chuck up on the screen magically. There's the pullback robot truck and the larger, more established line from Argentina called ConvertBot, where they actually re-released all of Wave 1 Robotron.
Right, Wave 1.
One of the nice things about them is they're basically the same figures. The Argentina ones, quality isn't fantastic, but all of the other bootlegs, they're pretty good. I mean, to start with, they're not massively difficult to cast. The plastic, it can't get much cheaper, but it's solid, and the little pullback motors are probably the only expensive bit. So bootlegs of them aren't bad representations compared to the originals anyway, so if you pick up a bootleg, have some fun with it. They're one of the few lines where you can say the bootlegs are not too bad. They didn't really cheap out. There was no die-cast metal to have to create. There was nothing expensive in the originals that would have made them go, well, we need to cut costs somewhere to reproduce this thing. Obviously, stickers and paint app is bootleg quality, but the actual casting of them is not too bad.
Most bootlegs are just awful, but if you set up the Robotron bootlegs next to the regular Robotron, I mean, it is oftentimes hard to tell the difference.
Look, in some bits the plastic is a little thinner, but visually and in hand, they're much the same. And they don't have the blue, broken blue plastic, the Bandai blue, getting brittle over age issue either. They all seem to be pretty solid.
The ones that are very apparent, like, are the DL ones, and correct me if I'm wrong there, but those were the ones that were like fully cast, like they didn't bother switching the colors, like they just said that's a blue train and it's a red car.
Yeah, yeah, didn't care. They're the same toy. Yeah.
And it's very apparent that the way Buddy L manufactured these was they had an entire peg, and it was just the blue train, and then they had a pair of the blue plane, and then they had a peg of the white plane, and then they just kind of swapped. DL Robo they didn't even take that quality control level. They were just like, nah, we cast it. It's good.
They just released them in any color that came down the conveyor belt. Absolutely did. And I guess with that, and like a lot of these KO toys, it is difficult for collectors who are just starting to pick them up to know which ones are genuine. I mean, unless you've
This
got
is
a
true.
reference site or something like that that shows you this is basically it. But then on top of that, you look at what Bloody Hell did with their mix and match towards the end. And even we were going, is this genuine or not? We haven't seen it on a blister card. Maybe it's real.
And this is where we plug the Liberator.net Robotron. The Liberator.net Robotron. And for all of your Robotron needs.
For hot Robotron action in your local area.
It was a great toy line, and it will be missed. I mean, I would love to see a remake of Robotron, you know, in the Masterpiece Transformers style, you know. But unfortunately, I don't believe we're ever going to see a Robotron movie or cartoon series.
If you've got a 3D printer, take this on as a job.
This is a natural thing.
It was came out in what year? About 1984, I think they came out. 1980.
Don't know. We need to get that right. I said he's gonna. We need to start this again. He's gonna ask.
No, let's just keep it rolling. It's 1984. 1984 was the beginning of Robotron.
No. We're gonna start. We can't have our first fact. Look.